It would come apart from its moorings.
It takes the skywalk only 15 seconds to plummet to the canyon floor. Now, the remaining structures and rockets are the victims of repeated South Florida hurricanes, and the only creatures waiting to launch from here
one by one, they rupture.
in 9,000-ton steel and lucite dome comes raining down.
Structure. And typically within 50 years, the structure is gone.
And gradually they're going to make the ship tilt over.
For this ship, the voyage is over.
Damage and 50 years without maintenance, the rubber has deteriorated. City Hall is doomed.
Despite the
Planes are turned into projectiles, slamming into the surrounding buildings. Most iconic homes slides down the hill, crashing the party on the once fabled Sunset Strip.
The former hotels fall into each other before finally toppling into the waiting grass.
Expand out.
The pressure becomes too great for the dome to bear. Concrete can no longer resist the greedy pull of gravity and falls in a shattering surrender. Roman-style arches made of modern concrete are shattered. The cheap seats provide a front row seat to the destruction. Something that was never expected in the frigid depths of space, abruptly where the keel will end its mission.
Eventually, the lean is too much for one of the buildings.
Earthquake strikes at dawn. The mass damper saves the theme building, leaving it the only structure at the airport still standing. It is the first of a cascade of catastrophes. The crashing gondola swings down into tower number 1. The rust-weakened tower cannot withstand the impact, and it begins to collapse.
And as that tower fell, it's liable to put too much torque on the next tower.
Connected by 2 miles of cable, pull each other down from the bedrock of the mountain.
The steel frame itself will corrode and collapse.
Submits to a final surrender itself.
The whole structure down.
And the sign falls flat on the empty, crumbling floors. Crash and tumble, and the piled-up debris collapses the towers from within. When half have gone, those that remain can no longer support the weight of the roadway.
Until each fails. And the plane that so sensationally opened the doors to global air traffic makes one final flight. Tides. The entire track begins to wave crazily. This extreme coaster makes its final plunge.
When one leg goes, the rest of Lucy will fall to the ground.
And the extra support to the dome will be gone.
Corner-line cascade down the side of the building that then sets off a catastrophic floor-by-floor implosion of the whole edifice.
The bridge collapses into the harbor. Shatters the silence of the abandoned city. As glass and steel rain down, finally breaks. A giant section falls southward, tumbling onto the roof of Grand Central Terminal. As the crumbling shells slam down onto
loses its grip, and the rest of the central tower collapses, bringing down one of the adjoining buildings as it falls.
Even after the building above collapses, with no iron skeleton to rust and destroy the concrete from within.
And a segment of the deck crashes into the river. A 150-foot gap now gashes through the road to Canada. Within seconds, the other sections fall. Vestiges of a great transportation link disappear.
And then when it hit the ground, you'd see dust flying, parts flying everywhere. You're going to have all sorts of mayhem.
Held the letters securely to girders sunk in the bedrock.
With its hollow steel structure corroding, Randy's Donuts crumbles.
The Empire State Building slips from the skyline.
Descend rapidly to another level below would be sufficient to trigger a cascading collapse.
As a giant quake liquefies the clay soil, the minarets fall away, and the stone and marble collapse. Bell pushing against the outside walls. A final crack sends the central bell tower crashing into one of the domes. The eastern wall gives way. More domes fall, pulling wood, brick, and sacred icons down into the swamp. The US Bank Tower is a charred, teetering steel skeleton. The upper 21 floors have earthquake-damping struts installed between floors, but after wildfire damage and years without maintenance, they can't fend off the inevitable. Quake finally brings down the weakened structure.
Right off, snapping the tower in the middle. The top of the tower plummets for more than 10 seconds and can accelerate to nearly 250 miles an hour before smashing into the earth. Its reign as the tallest structure on the continent is cut short.
The statue will punch down through the dome and it will all slump over like a wedding cake.
And so is the trademark glow of hundreds of illuminated signs. 150 years after People sees the beginning of the era of the great building collapses in New York City, all seems agonizingly slow. The big observation pod hits the ground at 150 miles an hour, the entire tower smashing in a cloud of debris. Columns lean one way, the spire another. Under the unbearable strain, the former pride of Shanghai cracks and falls. Her torch-bearing right arm is the first to fall.
And swan dives 2,000 feet to the desert below.
Becomes stressed. One potential for the collapse is its connection at the base.
A huge sandstorm blows in from the desert. The tallest tower mankind ever built keels over in the largest building collapse the planet has ever seen.
The remainders of deteriorating floor slabs would be pushed aside.
The pendulum ball bulldozes everything as it falls 88 floors. Like a meteorite, the wrecking ball crash lands below ground level. Taipei 101 is no longer the world's second tallest skyscraper. Failure and fracture in the trusses until the entire 30,000-ton framework fully yields to the force of gravity.
Cascading debris from one tower triggers the collapse of the other. In seconds, the monumental structures are reduced to dust and rubble. The roadway plunges 245 feet into the chill grey waters of the bay.
Into one just giant heaping mass.
To erode the earthen sides of the dam, they pull down the rest of the structure.
Putting the gates up.
The days when man controlled this river are over.
The digitized DNA of the Immortality Drive proves to be quite mortal after all. Will be nothing and no one to prevent these refinery explosions.
Could have a fire in one.
17. Support its load. Floors collapse, crashing down on the weakened concrete below. Atomic bombs swirling through the building. This is a nuclear disaster. The radioactive genie has escaped, and there's no one to stop it.